a message. And that is unfortunately all the time we have for messages today. Sharon, as always, thank you. I will consider bringing you back next week, but I will probably be wearing a hat. I'm kidding.
Well, just
anyway, no, thank you as always.
It's going to be great. I love the part. I think you're great, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Great to have you here. Apologies. I was eating during the breaks. So with that said, that's all the time we have for the show. I am going to be joining the Young Turks later on today. And oh God, who do we have on the show tomorrow? Apologies, I know that we're running out of time. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that. I apologize, but exciting things to come. And a reminder that on Friday, Yaz is gonna be taking over. Jordan is gonna be joining Yaz, which is going to be great. So definitely show support for them. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of the day. None other than Yasmin Aliya Khan. Always fascinating to have her brilliant analysis. Top story of the day. Federal prosecutor exposed for being racist online. Put up his picture, full mask. Wasn't hiding it well. All right, here we go. The individual behind an anonymous X account, rife with white supremacist and anti-immigration post, has been identified as Jim Joseph Rotten. No joke. Jim Joseph Rotten, an immigration and customs enforcement prosecutor, according to a detailed new report by the Texas Observer. So the profile, Glamour Responder, which boasts more than 17,000 followers, is run by the 44-year-old Jim Joseph Rotten, an assistant chief counsel for ICE in the Dallas area, who reportedly filled the X page with numerous hateful, racist, xenophobic posts. Quote, America is a white nation founded by whites. Okay. So let's be 100. America was founded by deists. Many of them were bigots. They believed that it was okay to purchase human beings, abuse children, if they happen to be Black. Now, that's the context here. So this individual who has a job as a trusted public official, not to prosecute, but to uphold justice and the Constitution, swore an oath to the Constitution, but could care less about the document that he would say defines the nation. How does it define the nation, sir? It does not even define you. Our country should favor us, he writes. All Blacks are foreign to my people, dumb Fs. The account posted last September. Let's go to May 2024. Glamour Responder posted, quote, I'm not a commie, I'm a fascist. Fascists solve communist problems. Get your insults right. And then they utilize the R word. Then in August, quote, migrants are all criminals. Last March, nobody is proposing feeding migrants into tree shredders, yet give it a few more weeks at this level of invasion. And that will be the moderate position. And just last month, my World War II vet grandfather didn't get a chance to kill Asians, so he volunteered for Korea. He'd be asking for a short-term job with ICE, kicking doors and swinging a baton. I don't think we have to talk about the obvious conflict of interest here. This is a racist wet dream. He gets a job prosecuting brown people. And every now and then, he may get a Black person. And then he's so racist that he's not satisfied with that level of evil. He then has to create an account, a social media account. To do what? To be even more racist. Because it wasn't enough just to ruin the lives of human beings that he was biased against due to his smallness and his bigotry. So Rodden's connection to the page was unearthed through a thorough investigation of the Glamour Responder social activity, which included posts suggesting that its operator was affiliated with an ICE office. In response to a post last month that listed several cities where immigration raids and deportations were expected to take place, Glamour Responder wrote, quote, can confirm all of those, may have a betting pool to see who can guess which one I'm at on any particular day based on the news. He added, the next day the account posted, quote, yeah, I'm in the courthouse waiting on warrants, adding, quote, turns out there's a lot of B work to be done to make mass deportations happen, end quote. A closer examination of other posts made by the account reveals the biographical details that coincide with information about Rodden based on his personal social media activity, court hearings that he attended, and records from open source investigative tools and private data broker sites, all of which were detailed in the Observer's report. The Glamour Responder account has been set to private, so its posts can only be seen by the page's followers. So in a statement, so ICE did speak up, put it up. ICE spokesperson did not confirm Rodden's employment or whether the agency will launch an investigation associated with Glamour Responder account. Quote, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will not comment on the substance of this article pending further investigation, to include whether the owner of the referenced X account is a current employee. The spokesperson wrote in an email to the Observer, notwithstanding ICE holds its employees to the highest standards of professionalism and takes seriously all allegations of inappropriate conduct. Inappropriate conduct. You should open up every case this man has ever prosecuted, because he started with the bias of saying everybody who's a migrant is criminal. How do you uphold justice? How do you perform your oath of office? You see, to me, this is more than civil. This is criminal. The level of public trust is so extreme and is so magnified, especially in this political era, that for someone to willingly violate that oath, it should be a criminal charge. But we know it won't happen. Why? Because Trump is president. That's why. We know this will not receive the full diligence it deserves, and the people who have likely been shredded by this human being will probably not see justice because Trump is in the White House. But what we can do is provide light. Let's put his picture back up again. We can provide light. We can give you information. We can call it as it is. I want to say a big thank you to the Texas Observer for doing such a remarkable job in the investigation of this story. Yasmin, thoughts here?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine someone working for ICE, that they wouldn't be at least a little bit racist. They would almost have to be by definition. By definition, they troll the borderlands looking for people of color, and then they question them. Then they say, why are you here? And how did you get here? And are you supposed to be here? But if you're a white person at the border, they're not going to stop you, right? So you have to profile people. You have to want to profile people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing that job. Even people like this guy, he doesn't work at the border. He is a prosecutor. But as a prosecutor, he chose to work for ICE. He could have worked anywhere else, but he chose to work for ICE. And I think this is what's so triggering about people who say things like, I'm not against immigration, I'm just against illegal immigration. Everyone is against things that are illegal. That's not a thing that needs to be said. That should be a given. If something's illegal, then steps should be taken to curb that type of behavior. But the people who go out of their way to say things like that, it always makes you wonder, why do you have to clarify that? Or why do you feel the need to clarify that? And maybe I'm making too much of this, or maybe I'm reading too much into something, but people who say things like that are more often than not preoccupied with the idea in some way of Black and or brown people entering and living in this country, however it's being done. Even if it's legally, they're still not happy about it, but they know they can't reasonably complain about it without being labeled a racist. And this guy's name is Rotten. I know it's spelled differently, but it is incredibly fitting because he does seem to be rotten to his core with hatred. And it does, that kind of hatred, it just festers inside of you and it does rot you. And he's also representative of so much rot that people like Trump and his rhetoric have inflicted on this nation. This is a thing that we are dealing with as a nation. This is not an isolated incident with this one man. This man is a product of this country that we live in and the political climate that we're currently in.
That's right. He is a symptom of the disease. All right. Update. A cop who fatally shot an exonerated man will not be charged. I'm going to take you to that body cam footage in Camden County, deep South Georgia. Here it is.
Sir, tickets in the state of Georgia are criminal offenses.
I don't have a ticket in Georgia.
You do now?
Why?
You passed me doing 100 miles an hour.
And what? Am I going
Hands behind your back. Yes, you're going to jail. Hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Okay. Yeah, bitch. Yeah, bitch. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Camden, shots fired. Shots fired, Camden. Stay down. Do not give up. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down.
There's a story behind this like you would not believe. You see, the man who was shot and killed, you see, the system had already effed him. He served 16 years in prison for a crime he never did. Put it up for a mass. Georgia deputy who fatally shot this exonerated Florida man will not be charged, according to the DA. Leonard Cure, 53, was killed just 3 years after the Florida authorities freed him from prison, but only after he served 16 years for a crime he never did. Now the Georgia sheriff's deputy who shot and killed him will not face any criminal charges, even though it was for a 2023 traffic violation. The district attorney who examined the body cam footage and other evidence said on Tuesday there will be no charges affixed. Staff Sergeant Buck Aldridge. Yep, Buck Aldridge, a white deputy in Camden County. Once again, this is deep South Georgia. Pulled Mr. Cure over for speeding on Interstate 95 near the Florida line on October 16th, 2023. Aldridge ordered Cure to get out of his pickup truck, shocked him with a stun gun when Cure refused to put his hands behind his back because he was being taken to jail for a speeding ticket. Body and dash camera video showed Cure was fighting back and had a hand at Eldridge's throat when he was shot point blank. Quote, use of deadly force at that point was objectively reasonable, given that he was being overpowered at that time. District Attorney Keith Higgins told the Associated Press in a phone interview on Tuesday. Keith Higgins is the district attorney who took that role after the former district attorney covered up a crime. Remember Ahmaud Arbery, okay? This is the place you're dealing with, all right? This is the same area. Attorneys Ben Crump and Harry Daniels, good friends who are representing the Cure family, have insisted Aldridge used excessive force. Now, quote, this decision is a devastating failure of justice, sending the message that law enforcement officers can take a life without consequence, they said in a statement. Quote, Leonard Cure was a man who had already fought so hard to reclaim his life after a wrongful conviction, only to have it stolen from him again. His family would not stop fighting for accountability, and neither will we. Cure had been exonerated in 2020 by the Broward State Attorney's Office, Fort Lauderdale, for a 2003 armed robbery of a drugstore. He was the first person to be exonerated by the office's conviction review unit, basically a conviction integrity unit. The unit found that Mr. Cure had strong alibis and that the case against him lacked physical evidence or solid witnesses. CBS Miami reported, quote, we are devastated by the death of Leonard Cure. The Broward State Attorney Harold F. Pryor said at the time of his death, the Leonard we knew was a smart, funny, and kind person. I work with some of these conviction integrity units, and typically when people are freed, they come back and they become motivational speakers. They provide insight to other prosecutors. They become friends, and they get to know the person that was wrongfully convicted, especially those units, those conviction integrity units that do it the right way. So this state attorney released a statement, even though the district attorney said no charges would be filed for his death. Seth Miller, the executive director of the Innocence Project, Florida, which worked on Mr. Cure's wrongful conviction case, told CBS Miami after Cure's death that he had recently bought his first home in Georgia. A spokesperson for Camden County, the sheriff's office, James Kevin Chaney, confirmed Aldridge remains employed by the sheriff. Aldridge had been placed on administrative leave while Cure's shooting was being investigated by the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. A year ago, Cure's family filed a federal lawsuit against Aldridge and then Sheriff Jim Proctor in the U.S. District Court, seeking $16 million. It accuses Aldridge of using excessive force and Proctor of ignoring the deputy's history of violence. Both have denied wrongdoing in the court filings. That case is still pending in the U.S. District Court. We will bring you updates as they come. If you talk to Attorney Harry Daniels of Ben Crump, they will tell you that this officer was likely a negligent retention because of the violent history of this officer and this officer's need to escalate rather than de-escalate per policy. That was a contributing factor in what happened to the already scarred Mr. Cure. And that becomes your but-for factor in why Mr. Cure had that kind of interaction. This is a traffic ticket. Okay, you say he's going 100, give him a super speeder, let him go. But you got to take him to jail? All right. Yasmin, it reminds me of a story in Atlanta where a deacon was shot and killed over a traffic violation in the city of Atlanta. And it was so insane because he refused to sign the ticket temporarily, wanting to see a supervisor. This young cop ends up arresting him, killing him. And the city of Atlanta ends up suspending the whole rule, saying, you know what? It's dumb to even make you sign the ticket. We don't even need your signature in the first place. And they suspended it.
Yeah. So much of what we're seeing is nonsensical and dumb, to use your own word. You know, like here we have another case of a cop making something out of absolutely nothing, escalating a situation far beyond where it needed to be, demanding that innocent people comply with their idiocy, and then getting their feelings hurt when their unearned and undeserved authority is not respected because they demanded that it should be. Unfortunately, these very fragile cops are then given deadly force to wield against American citizens, and more than the citizenry who pay taxes to fund these cops, by the way, the cops are the ones who are protected by the law at every turn. They're the ones without consequences. They're the ones without oversight. They're the only people in this country who can safely commit crimes, including murder, with little to no fear of retribution or any kind of penalty being lobbed against them. And they'll be able to keep their jobs in most cases. You know, sometimes they go through the optics of saying, oh, we let them go, we put them on leave. That's not a real consequence to killing someone. And all of this is what they're suffering, quote unquote, to, you know, because they chose to work in this particular line of work. People love to argue that cops and their jobs are dangerous, but no one asked them to do this job. They can quit if they can't handle it. They should be fired if they can't handle the stress or the magnitude of the job. And that's not to mention the fact that so many more situations are made more dangerous than they would otherwise have been once the cops get involved. But these cops who are, we keep hearing how dangerous their jobs are and how scary it is to be a cop. They don't have to do it. They're not helping. And all these provisions that we have in this country to protect them are not helping the American people. We are one step away from martial law at this point because the cops are turning on the citizens. And we have no way to fight against this because situations like this keep happening, when even in situations where the cop is seen and demonstrated to be wrong, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And at the end of the day, someone is already dead. So even if justice was upheld by the people who are supposed to be justice in this country, they're the face of justice in this country. But even if there was any kind of justice to come, it would always come after the fact. And after the fact means after someone has already been killed.
That's right. That's right. Well said. We will bring updates to the civil suit as it develops. All right. Well, possible attempted cover-up. White woman arrested finally for fatally shooting her black boyfriend. I'm taking you to the state of Georgia. Put up the picture full mass. This is a hell of a story. Authorities in Georgia have arrested Hannah Cobb, the girlfriend of 30-year-old Telvin Tellabo Rackens Osborne, who they say shot him to death in the bedroom they shared early Sunday morning. Sheriff Alfonso Williams said Tuesday that Cobb, 25, has been charged with involuntary manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter, okay? Cobb is being held at Burke County Jail, said the sheriff, who stressed that the shooting was not an accident. Now, I want you to remember involuntary manslaughter, all right? So the shooting occurred after, quote, both parties had been drinking, end quote, said Sheriff Williams, confirming the couple fought before the fatal bullet was shot. Cobb and Osborne lived together and had 2 children. Quote, the offenses committed leading up to the discharge of the firearm included simple battery, family violence, and reckless conduct. Sheriff said during a news conference on Tuesday, it is reckless to go out and get drunk and then introduce a firearm in an argument. It is reckless to engage in an argument where there's pushing and shoving going on. Let me contextualize simple battery. Let me contextualize it. Simple battery is unwanted physical contact. Typically, simple battery does not mean assault. It's unwanted physical contact. It could be a shoulder bump. It could be as simple as a move your hand off of me. Things like that. That is simple battery. So I want to provide a contextualization that the sheriff is providing. Sheriff Williams said investigators worked the last 2 days interviewing friends, family members, and other witnesses before they, quote, were able to secure warrants and make an arrest in this case. Osborne worked at the Savannah River nuclear plant, investigators said, little until today. But Osborne's younger brother, Roderick Williams, pointed the finger at Cobb early on, alleging she shot his sibling while suggesting police were covering up for her because she is white. The sheriff's office said Cobb cooperated with the investigation. She notified authorities that Osborne had been shot. Online, speculation ran wild following a post from the brother who shared his thoughts on Facebook in a lengthy post about the investigation that had generated 744 shares at the time and 250 comments as of Monday evening. Quote, so Hannah Grace Cobb kills my brother, Tellabo Rackens, after leaving a club partying, Roderick Williams alleged. Quote, she claims she went home and cleaned a damn gun and shot him in the head, he said. Anybody out there knows something doesn't sound right about that? Sheriff Williams has confirmed that Cobb was not cleaning her gun when the incident occurred. I understand frustration of the brother because this woman wasn't initially charged. She was able to proclaim this affirmative defense saying it was an accident until, as the sheriff said, they had to then talk with witnesses and talk with family members and secure an arrest warrant. Wait a minute. You have a dead person. You have a live shooter. What question do you need to incarcerate them? Now, the victim's brother goes on to ask why Cobb didn't put her gun on safety while cleaning it. Quote, it could have shot anybody, Roger Williams said. Who parties, gets drunk, and goes home in the middle of the night and cleans a gun? I mean, he's talking like a detective. The victim's brother asked why the sheriff's department had withheld this information from the news media. Quote, sorry, but I don't buy it. And she needs to be locked up. It's negligent to even consider cleaning a gun. If that's what happened, what if a child was there? You're cleaning a gun. You had to pull the trigger on the gun. So WTF was your finger around the trigger? This is ridiculous. Once again, the young brother is providing the same level of investigative prowess we would expect from the law enforcement agency. So you're drunk, but you went home to clean a gun. You're intoxicated, but you're cleaning a gun. Is your gun always not on safety? Why was your finger around the trigger of the pistol? And then you're dealing with trajectory, aim, everything else. So Roderick Williams alleges a racist cover-up in subsequent post, writing, quote, Georgia headlines make sure to broadcast everything blacks do, but a white woman kills my brother, and I haven't seen anything online at all other than our grieving family shaking my head. By February 24th, Roderick Williams wrote that his sources have told him the house his brother shared with Ms. Cobb has never been set up as a crime scene. And if so, it wasn't one right after my brother was found dead there, meaning they did not secure it. So why didn't law enforcement feel the need to do so, he asked? Why didn't they contact the media immediately? They knew they needed to cover up for her actions. He also posted a video allegedly of Cobb dancing at a club just hours before his brother's shooting. Osborne's case bears an eerily similar resemblance to that of Christian Toby Abumseli, who was fatally stabbed inside of a luxury apartment building. Remember this? In Miami's Edgewater neighborhood. This was April 3rd, 2022, by his white girlfriend, Courtney Clenny, an OnlyFans model and an Instagram influencer who was ultimately charged for his murder after her own friends told the police she did it. Clenny had claimed she stabbed her boyfriend in self-defense, and for months, she and her attorney claimed, oh, he was abusive. Yeah, that's what happened. However, video footage circling online and statements made by mutual friends suggested that Clenny was the violent one towards her boyfriend. Wow, this is fascinating. And my goodness, the consistency and the love from the brother in this case, I believe, made all the difference in the world. The questions he posed, the people who looked at the post, the individuals who decided to share it, and the media who initially was complicit in the conspiracy, willfully or not, they were complicit because they didn't ask those questions. And why was it not, why was the crime scene not protected? Oh, because they did not see it as a crime scene. That's why. All right. This is one of those very nuanced stories where a brother is able to get significant investigative information that clearly establishes a circumstantial and somewhat forensic case against the person who killed his own brother. He does this online, and all of a sudden there's a charge. What say you?
Yeah, I love that you pointed out the difference between the legal terms at the top of the story because, so often we read about these cases. We're not all lawyers, we're all lay people. So we don't always know the difference between things like simple battery as a term and assault, for example. And in this case, we might hear that she was charged with involuntary manslaughter and assume that it was all an accident, but the sheriff had to confirm that the shooting was not accidental.
That's right.
Any kind of domestic violence is sad and unnecessary, regardless of gender, who's doing it to who, regardless of race. However, whenever racism is inherent in the investigation of a case in terms of the alleged cover-up or in terms of protecting a white woman who shot a black man, that is a whole other issue. And that in and of itself is sad because the racism now detracts from the fact that someone's entire life was lost and that someone's entire family and all of that person's friends are grieving the loss of this person. These stories are so dehumanizing because they can reduce someone's whole life to that of their race. It's unacceptable, but it is literal racism. That is what racism is. Racism is when people reduce others to absolutely nothing more than just their race, which it seems is why this woman was protected as she killed a Black person. That's what we saw from the investigators. That's what we saw from the media who initially reported the story. And I'm so glad that the brother was able to get answers and to get results from this investigation, but he really should not have had to work so hard. And hopefully now there can be some kind of closure with the family. Hopefully now they can actually grieve instead of having to be the detectives that the actual detectives should have been in the first place.
And I know even with this kind of story, there will be people who will post, oh, race had nothing to do with it. They may have believed her story because of A, B, and C. Well, I want you to imagine a world where the deceased parties comes home, cleans a gun, shoots his girlfriend in the head. She's dead. The police respond, and they simply believe his story. And he gets to go to sleep that night with no charge. You couldn't even imagine in America that would do that. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting
The control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way, referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, welcome back. I was going to be with you. I got a lot of comments. All right, I appreciate you all. Lynn says, off topic, but you're looking extra sharp today, Dr. Ritchie. I appreciate that. That is not off topic. You can compliment me anytime. All right. Appreciate you, Lynn. Lynn also says, unfortunately, far too many times after you say we have an update, I've noticed this too, by the way, Lynn, it's followed by bad news. I think that's only going to get worse during this current administration. I got to tell you, prior to Trump getting back into office, when I said we have an update, the majority of those updates were actually toward a progressive resolution. It was a positive update. After Trump got elected, I have noticed that those stories that seemed easy updates, we just needed it to work through the criminal justice system. All of a sudden, cop won't be charged. Here's an update. Individual was denied the settlement and they're going to court when normally that would have been a settled case immediately, et cetera, et cetera. So I get your point and I agree. Purple Rain Dragon, policing in America is dangerous because of the cops. If they treated people with dignity and respect, so much of this could be avoided. That's right. It's an us and them mentality. All people deserve to be treated with respect and desire to. Panic on Funkatron. I like to see TYT do live handoffs between shows like how Jon Stewart and Steve Colbert used to do. Oh, look at that. You put it in the universe. It may happen now. I'm actually game for it. So, you may be on to something. Mango's Dragon, lay hello, everyone. And John Morton. Thank you for that, John. Dr. Richard, please let everyone know, we're doing now, in Maine, know that the hearing on the Opega report into Maine foster care, Maine foster care abuse is Friday at 9:30 a.m. People could tune in from the state website, State of Maine website. It's pretty sad here. Godspeed to you, man. All right, positive vibrations and thoughts to you. And this was the point that Yasmin made. I think this is Eric or Erich_197. Is anyone surprised by any member of ICE being a racist? Yeah. All right. Got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I'm here on a job, right? And I guess this lady right here says I smell like marijuana, but I don't even smoke. I literally just took a drug test. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly is her purpose of telling me to step outside.
I said, sir, you smell of smoke. Can you please step outside?
I don't smoke. Okay. I'm actually an athlete. So, right, I'm here for a company, mind you, a job that I'm working. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly is your basis of. Right. Now you got nothing to say, apparently.
Well, you're recording me on social media, and I'm gonna ask you not to.
Well, that's my right. That's you know what I mean. I have the right to do that. Okay. I didn't attack you, nothing like that. But
I didn't say you did. I just said I smell you, and I smell.
I don't smoke. I said that 3 times.
And I said, could you please step outside?
Why would I have to step outside if I don't smoke?
You refuse to step outside.
Why would I have to step outside if I don't smoke?
Well, This is, in my opinion, a true Karen. It did not stop there. It actually continued. She once again tells the man, well, step outside, doesn't give up. Here it is.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Why would I have to step outside if I don't smoke?
I said, I see you smell of marijuana. Could you please
I
step
don't
outside?
smoke.
You okay?
I don't smoke. So it's like some underlying like racism or something? I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
I don't think that was the issue.
So what's the issue?
I just said you smell of smoke. Could you please step outside?
That's your opinion. I'm here for a job to work for a company. You're sorry to break it down to you, but you're a manager. So you telling me to leave because I smell like smoke is not, what basis is that for me to not?
Please step outside.
You keep saying, can I please step outside? This is literally interfering with
I understand.
what I'm doing.
Yep. Put it up full mass. I see what's going on here. Karen, there are better ways to ask for marijuana in the community. If you wanted to smoke, all you had to do was just ask. Okay? We got to stop doing this, Karen. We know what you like to do. We know. Okay? You were going to confiscate it. Take it off his persons. Yeah, this is weird-ish, all right? I just need you to step outside. You smell like marijuana. Me and you need to go outside together. I mean, what you think going on?
She sounds like a crazy person, right? Because she keeps repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Not only does she sound crazy, but things like that can make someone crazy to hear and be on the other end of. You know, if I'm trying to have a conversation with someone and all they can do is repeat the same thing back to me over and over and over again, first of all, I don't think you're very smart. Second of all, she said that he refused to leave whenever she asked him to step outside. Why does he have to listen to her? Like, who is she? He's supposed to be in the building. He has a right to be in the building. He doesn't have to leave. If she doesn't like the way he smells, regardless of what he smells like, that's not a reason for him to be removed from the premises. You can't just be like, you smell bad, you should get out. And then if that person doesn't do so, like, that's a problem. None of it makes any sense. It is entitlement. Maybe she just wanted to have that conversation that you were alluding to and didn't want to do it in front of her other colleagues.
Yeah.
She's embarrassed. She has a habit that she's ashamed of, whether or not she should be. I don't think she should be ashamed of it.
Well, yeah, not at all. Not at all. Interesting way to do it. All right. Well, another horrible policy passed. Budget resolution likely results in cuts to Medicaid. I'm taking you to the video, bring you updates. Here it is.
What the order that's been sent down here is find $880 billion. Not there is $880 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse. It's fined $880 billion. The numbers don't add up. $880 billion is a devastating cut to Medicaid. And given that 30% of Medicaid dollars also go to Medicare, it's also an attack on Medicare, to Medicare recipients. And so while I completely understand the idea that there should not be waste, that there should not be fraud, and that there should not be abuse, $880 billion is not that. This is an attack on Medicaid, and anyone who votes on this budget this week is voting to cut Medicaid in America and voting to gut healthcare for Medicare recipients in America. There's just no other way around it.
Good policy brings life, bad policy brings death. Put it up full mass. These individuals are proud of themselves. Donald Trump's budget blueprint has passed through the House amid many concerns that there would be cuts to Medicaid, potentially affecting tens of millions of Americans. Now, those Americans are not just Democrats. Understand this. The House Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, must now cut $880 billion in spending over the next decade. But the big question remains as to how that will be achieved. The vote passed 217 to 215, with all Democrats and one Republican opposing. It comes after GOP leaders confirmed certain cuts to Medicaid would not be happening to get a number of House Republicans on board. The outlet was informed by several lawmakers who had been present at Tuesday night's meetings to discuss the concerns that GOP leaders said they would protect certain Medicaid services and not cut into the share of federal payments for the program. Some Republicans have supported the move to ensure states pay a greater proportion of Medicaid costs. As for some states, the federal government has been paying 90% of the cost for the ACA, Affordable Care Act expansion enrollees. The GOP leaders have also assured concerned Republicans that they would focus on addressing waste, fraud, and abuse in the program rather than cutting benefits according to Politico. And they never do. They never address that stuff, ever. Trump has said multiple times that Medicaid would not be affected, telling Fox News last week that it would not be touched, but the House Energy and Commerce Committee would have to find this money out of Medicaid, Medicare, and the Children's Health Insurance Program. If the committee takes its cuts from everything that is not health care, reducing this spending to zero, it will still be more than $600 billion short, according to an analysis by the New York Times. So you mean to tell me somebody doesn't know how to do simple math? The Republicans lied to the Republicans. Did Trump lie to members of Congress in his own party? Speaker Mike Johnson on Monday, February 24th said, look, everybody needs to understand that the resolution is merely the starting point for the process. So there's nothing specific about Medicaid in the resolution. The legislation comes later. So this is the important first start. However, Johnson also said this.
You said that this is just the start of the process. Can you say unequivocally that further down the line, there won't be any cuts to Medicaid programs?
Yeah, so look, let me clarify what we're talking about with Medicaid. Medicaid is hugely problematic because it has a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. Everybody knows that. We all know it intuitively. No one in here would disagree.
Oh, duck, dodge, deny, deflect. Johnson, you just said that this is merely a starting point. What's important is the next thing we're going to do, and everything will be okay. And then when pressed, it's problematic. Really? Well, Medicaid covers 1 in 5 people living in the United States, okay? Medicaid is a key source of coverage of certain populations. All right? We're going to get into it. 2023, Medicaid covered nearly 4 in 10 children, over 8 in 10 in poverty, 1 in 6 adults, and almost half of all adults in poverty relative to white children and adults. Medicaid covers a higher share of Black, Hispanic, and American Indian or Alaska Native children and adults. Medicaid covers more than 1 in 4 adults ages 19 to 64 with disabilities who are defined as having one or more difficulty related to hearing, vision, cognition, ambulation, self-care, or independent living. I mean, at some point, the leaders in the Republican Party have to ring the alarm. I know that you all have this artful way of lying to your constituents, but this is going to have real world impact to the people who voted you all into office. And as many of the Republicans echoed in those meetings, don't touch Medicaid. We can't vote against Medicaid. And they know you said this. I'm talking directly to the Republican leaders who stayed the course until they accepted the lie. And I believe most of you, if not all of you, accepted the lie intentionally so that you could have a political out when you were challenged by your constituents. Why did you vote for this? Why did you take this away? You see, this equates to death. Here's what's guaranteed. You keep this cut, more people are going to have a lower quality of life and die. Point blank. This is heartless. But now they're cutting into the very mainstream of the MAGA voter. What happens? All right, Yasmin, thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, we all knew this was coming. If you didn't know, then you simply were not paying attention or you didn't want to know. What's baffling about all of this is exactly what you just said. Republicans have coasted for so long on the ignorance of Americans, specifically the ignorance of their Republican voters. And they were able to do so much of this because the things that they complain about, so much of their current platform, at least the things that they focus on publicly, involve things that don't actually impact most of their voters. That's why they focus on things like illegal immigration, because for the most part, their voters don't actually interact with people who are in the country illegally. That's why they focus on transgender people, a group that makes up less than 1% of this population, a group that most Republican voters have never encountered personally in their own lives. As long as they can keep their voters scared about something that they won't be able to disprove or discredit with their own lived experiences, then they can keep their base subservient. But this is very interesting because this will directly impact most of their voters. Most people will see their taxes raised. Millions of Americans are going to lose access to their health care. Millions of Americans are going to tangibly suffer because of this. And we know that Republican voters specifically only ever care about their own pocketbooks. We know that Republican voters don't care about what's happening in the country or in the world unless it directly affects them. We know that the 1/3 of eligible voters in this country who voted for Trump did so in large part because eggs were too expensive in the grocery store. All they care about is their money. These are the same people who believe, because Trump and Elon Musk told them, that there is rampant fraud in the government without having seen any evidence of that fraud. Where is the fraud, waste, and abuse that Speaker Johnson was referring to in the Medicaid program? Show us. If he can show us, then we'll believe it. If the program needs to be updated so that it can be made more efficient, then great, do that, update it. That's what should have been done all along, but that's not what they're doing, and they're lying to their constituents about what their true intentions are. AOC is absolutely right. It's strange to have a specific number in mind when looking to cut excessive spending from the government. They're trying to pay for their tax cuts, for the tax cuts that they just gave to the absolute wealthiest Americans. This is not a secret. I don't know why Republicans voters do not get this. And we're all going to suffer for this, not just the people who voted for Trump. But I hope, if anything, this serves as even the smallest wake-up call for them. If that happens, it'll be a very, very small ray of sunshine to have come from this administration.
Yeah. And ironically, people like Steve Bannon and others, they have echoed a similar sentiment that we have said about Medicaid. There's no way you're being thoughtful about what you're doing. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcast and cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, the defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these beautiful comments. Thank you all in advance. Trump Lloyd, Yasmin girl, you are saying exactly what Jim Hightower was shouting from the Texas rooftops. Getting way too close to martial law / civil war. Yeah. X-Dog, the security dragon. I want to know who were the 2 no votes. Cowards. Snack Panther, my suggestion is that everybody that is able get in the best shape as possible because healthcare is just going to be for the rich. Yeah. And Donald James X, the doc is so right, well put. Sean Simpson, blessings, Dr. Ritchie. Blessings back to you, thank you. And Cherie R, why she know so good what it smells like? Talk about the Karen. It's a great point there. All right. Well, Trumpian fashion, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman, representative of the people, and Laura Ingraham, commentator, host, anchor. They decided to insult laid off federal workers as if it's something to be insulted. Here it is.
You can protest all you want outside of departments of this government. You can protest all you want, but the American people disagree with you. You're protecting the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is not a business. Those are not real jobs producing federal revenue. By the way, they're consuming taxpayer dollars. Those jobs are paid for by the American tax people who work real jobs, earn real income, pay federal taxes, and then pay these federal employees. Federal employees do not deserve their jobs. Federal employees do not deserve their paychecks. And these are jobs that can be fired at will.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I could not agree with you more if we're talking about your job as a federal employee who makes $174,000 a year, who cannot simply be fired through normative action. Yes, that's the job. Taxpayer funded. Yes. There's more.
How do you resurrect your party, though? By protecting red tape and the bureaucracy, by trying to gin up sympathy for federal workers who need to get real jobs in the real world like most of America. Ever heard of it? Now, do Democrats really think that Americans will stop liking Trump because he fires these people?
I felt absolutely infuriated getting this email with a demand within 48 hours to provide a response on what I did within the last week or face termination. This is clearly an attempt from Elon Musk to harass and bully and intimidate the federal workforce, which is part of his broader plan to gut the federal workforce and privatize public sector services.
Now, making a list of what you accomplished in a week, that's what she was whining about, is harassment and bullying? Of course, because that requires what, 15 minutes of work?
When did the everyday federal worker or federal contract worker become enemy number one? When did this happen? Because I remember there was a time when Congress could not figure out how to keep the government open. And federal workers, those that were essential workers, still had to show up to work. I remember bars and restaurants giving those individuals free dinners, free beers, or beers for 25 cents, et cetera, pitching in, knowing they were not getting paid. Members of Congress were getting paid, but people literally stood up for the federal workforce, federal workers. But when did federal workers become enemy number one? How did this happen? If you care about how money works, firing 2 million people at one time, well, that means that 2 million individuals may not be able to pay their mortgage or their rent. They don't buy from the local dinery. They do not go to the local clothing store. They do not purchase a car. They do not purchase gas. They don't purchase coffee. The economy in those localized communities will start to suffer. Why? Because they were simply fired. This is not happening in a vacuum. This is happening in a wave. And as one, so is the other. And so while Laura Ingraham, while you sit there making your multi-million-dollar check, talking down on the number one employer of Black folk in particular, I'm talking about the federal government, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, we know good and damn well, if you were not a member of Congress, you would hope to have a federal job somewhere in your future, but this is probably the only federal job that will hire you. So here we are. Let's put it up. Tens of thousands of U.S. government workers have been fired in recent weeks, according to a tally by Reuters. This is going to have a devastating ripple effect. It's just the way it is. These are career level jobs. Federal workers or somebody who works in the federal government, that's not a real job. That's insane. That's insane. How do you think your streets are built? Sidewalks for major corridors. How do you think buildings that are governed by the GSA, how do these things happen? Do they just pop up? No, they're workers. Who do you think does the plumbing? Who do you think does the architecture? Who do you think goes up the scaffold? Who lays the concrete? Who pushes the paper? Who gets the contract? Who does payroll? These aren't jobs? Insanity. Yasmin, thoughts here?
Oh, yeah. It's just hilarious coming from these particular people. Laura Ingraham has a career where she just insults and misleads her audience. MTG, I don't know really what she does with her day apart from going on these programs and tweeting. Doc, you and I are talking heads on a show. We have very similar jobs and job titles to Laura Ingraham. I believe that the work that we do is important and hopefully it's helpful to people, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the work that I do is more important than the work that these laid off federal workers are doing. I'm not delusional. The work that they're doing is incredibly admirable. We need people like that in our government, and I'm grateful that they want to do those jobs.
Yes.
I just did a video for Rebel HQ talking about how Republicans are saying that they're eliminating bureaucracy. That's not what they're doing. They know that's not what they're doing, but it's such an easy thing to rally people behind. Bureaucracy is the worst. Everyone hates bureaucracy. Everyone has to deal with bureaucracy in some way, shape, or form in their lives. And every time it is infuriating. The plot of the Loki show, the Marvel show, was that we are all living in a bureaucratic nightmare. That is how prevalent it is. So it's a really easy thing to say, we hate bureaucracy, and people are like, oh yeah, also us, right? It's cheap. It's very cheap. And it is disingenuous. And I also love that you pointed out that MTG's salary is paid for by the American taxpayers. Can DOGE cut her from the payroll? I would love to see it, because it would be really nice if somebody like her was laid off, because she doesn't do a whole lot of good for this country. And I'm not sure how she's able to justify her paycheck. Also, I would love to see how Laura Ingraham would respond if some billionaire who she doesn't work for demanded that she justify her paycheck to him. It's not about the 15 minutes of work. Everyone with a brain knows that. It's about the disrespect, the threats of joblessness. It's the dismissal of the work that these people do. It's the fact that these people who are simply trying to earn a living in public service have been made enemies of the people. And this is happening because, again, billionaires can never be the villains. It always has to be someone else. It always has to be someone more vulnerable. It always has to be someone else to divide the nation while distracting from people who are actually trying to destroy the nation. That's what we're seeing, and it's very sad. And this talking point that's happening all over Fox News, hopefully, I can only imagine that it's going to backfire on them eventually, because as you pointed out, there are going to be significant ripple effects of this. They're making so many people unemployed in this country. The unemployment rate is going to skyrocket. They're not giving these people any options as to other jobs that they can maybe do. I don't know what the long-term goal is for the Republicans here, apart from the fact that the rich are going to continue getting richer to the point where they don't have to care what we want to do. They don't have to care about the people They don't have to continue the optics of pretending that we're a democracy anymore. And MTG, we're already seeing it, right? She said it doesn't matter. You can protest all you want. It's not going to change anything. A bunch of people just resigned from DOGE this morning or yesterday, and they wrote a letter saying this is why we're doing it. And the White House press secretary came out and said it doesn't matter. All these people, they can complain all they want. It doesn't matter because Trump is going to do whatever Trump wants to do. This is not a democracy anymore. That's not what this is. We're allowed to exercise our free speech, but just know they're telling us it's not going to make any difference. They're not listening.
Yeah, it's very sad. And Marjorie Taylor Greene talking down like this to federal workers. Imagine what Elon says about federal workers to contextualize it. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Hey everyone, Mateo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Here's the inside scoop on diners in LA. You want good pastrami sandwich, you go to Factors. You want to see some people in the business, you go to Nate and Al's. You want the best variety? My secret spot's the Nosh. Now here's the inside scoop on politics and news. You go watch the Young Turks live every day at 6 o'clock Eastern.
All right, welcome back. Well, hell of a thing. Idaho woman is assaulted and dragged from a town hall meeting. Here it is.
And look at this. This little girl is afraid to leave. She spoke up, and now she doesn't want to suffer the consequences. Isn't that the problem? That we're struggling with so many of the keys today.
Let's go. This man is assaulting me. Is this your deputy? Is this your deputy? No, don't touch us. Is he a deputy? These are deputies. Who the are these men?
So how about that? We know that government has been mismanaging
cooperate, it'll be 100 times better. Yeah, that's what they say.
Cowards. Put them up, full mass. Idaho. This was a woman who says her right to free speech was violently stripped away when she was forcibly removed by 3 unidentified men at a town hall led by a local Republican committee who described the woman as disruptive. Let's go to the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee identified Teresa Barenpole as a woman who was on video being dragged out of the committee's town hall Saturday. In a Facebook post, the committee said, Barenpole shouted down legislators with insults and disrupted the town hall several times before being asked to leave. A woman, now identified as Barenpole, shouted, "Is this a town hall or a lecture?" multiple times in the response. Oh my gosh. Those gentlemen must have been scared for their lives. She shouted, "Is this a town hall or a lecture?" They couldn't deal with that. They didn't understand how to deal with that. Put it up. The video showed a man with the sheriff's hat tell the woman to leave or be arrested. The man identified himself as the county sheriff, Robert Norris. Quote, "We're asking you to leave on video. Please get up or be escorted out," Norris said in the video. Ms. Barenpole refused to leave, and Norris pulled at her arm multiple times in an attempt to remove her. He then instructs men wearing black clothing to remove her. Let's go to the chairman of the committee. His name is Brent Reagan. Brent said that the lady was removed by, quote, licensed and bonded professional security. What? Licensed and bonded professional security. After interrupting the town hall at least 7 times, so they were counting, he accused her of having a history of disrupting meetings. All of the town hall attendees were told that they would be removed if they did not, quote, respect the rights of others. He said, quote, "None of this would have happened if Barenpole had been respectful of others." Let's go back to his picture. "Sir, I usually don't do this. You have the audacity to talk about respect with a hairline like that. Sir, your hairline is offending me." Okay? I could help myself. "None of this would have happened," he says, "if Barenpole had been respectful of others. Her failure to follow the simple rules of decorum caused an 18-minute delay in the meeting and reduced the number of questions the legislators had time to ask." He got a whole lecture, as she was saying. He also alleged that Barenpole was cited for trespass and battery over an accusation that she bit one of the men who removed her. Police Sergeant Jared Renaud told NBC News that there was never a citation for trespassing at that prosecutor's move to dismiss the battery citation on Monday. The sergeant also said that the chief of police recommended the city revoke the security company's license following the incident. The security company, Lear Asset Management, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So the sergeant in chief, like, all right, listen, first of all, there ain't no damn citation. There was no trespass. What they did charge you with, we've already dropped. And by the way, that dumbass security company that did that in the first place, we're going to go ahead and take that license while we're at it. Those are real people. Human beings. A GoFundMe was started for Barenpole's legal defense, raised more than $94,000 as of Tuesday afternoon. She got $100,000 out the deal and bit somebody. Allegedly. Idaho Democratic Party Chair Lauren Nicoche, in a statement, accused the event organizers of not allowing dialogue between the legislators and the constituents. Quote, "It is a very sad day when a woman who voices dissent is physically grabbed out of a public venue by unidentified men while the event moderator belittles and taunts her. Idaho deserves better." Black women on TikTok had an interesting reaction to the incident. Here it is.
I've been reading through some of the comments online, and I saw one comment by a Black woman that really resonated with me. This woman was assaulted in front of a room full of white people, and absolutely no one stood up for her. No one stopped it from happening. In fact, most of them were cheering it on. There are no women of color who need to be putting themselves on the front lines right now.
When Trump won, Black people said, let's sit back, let's rest. This is not our lesson to learn, it's their lesson to learn. And I want to say, I don't think they're smart enough to learn the lesson, nor do they care about the lesson. That woman being dragged out of that town hall says everything we need to know about how much they care as of right now. But that woman being dragged out and nobody stepping in to help her is crazy to me. No one stepped in front of her to prevent her from being dragged out by two men she does not know who would not identify themselves. And then there was other women laughing, giggling, clapping. Why is the whole room clapping and this woman is being manhandled by two men? One woman sitting across from her was like, aha, that's a Democrat for you, bitch, what?
The way I see it, the woman who got dragged out of that town hall meeting and no one standing up for her means they're not ready to begin being on that front line of the revolution. They're not ready. They are not mad enough. They might have showed up to the town hall, but they didn't show up to the town hall because they're not going to show up for you because they didn't even show up for her.
There's an awakening happening. People are being shaken out of their slumber. And this is the shaking process. Yasmin, thoughts?
Yeah, in this country, we live under the illusion that we're like civilized people in the sense that we're more civilized than other people around the world. So whenever we see other countries that are less civilized than we are, we say, look at those people. They don't know what they're doing. Look at how uncivilized they are. And we think that we're better than them. But now these things are happening in our country. We're seeing things that we would expect to see in somewhere else. It doesn't matter where, but just not here. But they are happening here, and it's gross and it's ugly, and it does not make us look good. It makes us look very uncivilized, if I do say so. But what was I just saying? You know, we still do technically have free speech in this country, but no one is listening. No one wants to listen. That man just victim blamed that woman, calling her disrespectful. And that's why all this happened to her. And is this technically free speech when someone is suffering physical consequences for exercising the right to free speech in public at a town hall meeting of all places? That is a place where you literally go to voice your opinions directly to your elected officials. I think I said this on the damage report yesterday, that I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans just stop doing these town halls because the optics of them have not been great. They make Republicans, both the leaders and the voters, look terrible, but it's different. They can make themselves look bad on their own. They don't seem to care that they look bad most of the time. They seem proud of their image, especially on social media. But at these meetings, we're seeing people expressing opposition against Republican leaders and policies. We're seeing Republican leaders being laughed at to their faces and booed at and insulted and called names. We're seeing that these Republican leaders are not as popular or as respected as they would like you to think that they are. Of course, that woman was being disrespectful because she does not respect any of those people. But this is bad for the business of their politics, and it's bad for their brand. One of the biggest flaws of democracy as we practice it in this country is that it really is little more than a popularity contest. If they can't convince people that they are popular or likable or good leaders or worthy of respect, they have got nothing, and it's pathetic.
Yeah, it truly is. And we see the lack of humanity being shown by those that we will call the perpetrators. And then we see the other layer of humanity that is required for that to happen. And those are the observers. If we stand back and do absolutely nothing, none of us are as decent as we believe. This is a different nation, and it is changing by the moment. We're going to have to be the resistance. Some will fight harder than others, but all of us know what's up. If you watch this show, you know what's going on. So I encourage you to remain full of vigor and full of light. Light is your ability to pass on good, true information to others. Make sure you empower people by the light you give them. Yasmin, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Yeah, you can find me over on Rebel HQ. I usually do 4 videos a week over there. Not next week because I'm going out of town, but usually 4 videos a week. And also you can follow me on Instagram at YazK. That's YAZZZZK, 5 Z's. I don't post often, but when I do, it's usually fun. So that's me.
All good. Always good to have you. And thank you for always bringing a brilliant analysis. Remember, everyone, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.